You're sitting there thinking about hosting a cozy little cabin rental, and suddenly, you're worried about getting into a staring contest with a bobcat. That is what happens when your short-term rental borders a wildlife reserve. And honestly, it is way more common than people think. Here's the first thing you need to understand. Local and state agencies often have buffer zone rules, which basically means there is invisible fencing around protected land that limits what you can build, light up, or even mow near the edge. Lighting is a huge deal here, believe it or not. Bright porch lights or string lights can mess with nocturnal animals, throwing off their hunting and breeding patterns, so a lot of reserve-adjacent rentals are required to use motion sensor or amber-toned lighting instead. Noise ordinances get stricter too, almost like the forest itself filed a noise complaint. Hot tubs, fire pits, and loud parties can stress out wildlife, so some areas cap outdoor activity hours earlier than you would expect, sometimes as early as 9 in the evening. You also have to think about what your guests bring with them, especially food. Leaving trash or grills unsecured can practically mail an invitation to raccoons, bears, or coyotes, so bear-proof bins and clear trash pickup instructions are not optional extras. They are survival tools. Landscaping rules sneak up on a lot of hosts. Many reserves require native plants only, since invasive species can spread into protected land and choke out what is supposed to be there naturally. Here's a fun twist nobody expects. Some properties cannot even have outdoor cats or unleashed dogs because Pets Chasing Wildlife is basically a real-life nature documentary nobody asked to star in. Now let us talk about permits, because yes, there is paperwork involved. Depending on your state, you might need an environmental review or a conditional use permit specifically because your land touches a protected zone. This is where people get tripped up the most. They assume their short-term rental permit covers everything, but wildlife protection rules usually come from a totally different agency, like Fish and Wildlife Departments or conservation boards. So you end up juggling two sets of rules at once, your city's rental ordinance and the environmental agency's protection standards. It sounds exhausting, but it really just means doing your homework once and then running on autopilot. A lot of hosts panic and assume this means they cannot rent at all. That is almost never true. It usually just means a few extra steps like fencing setbacks, drainage plans, or limiting outdoor square footage you can develop. History actually backs this up pretty well. Areas like the Florida Everglades and parts of the Pacific Northwest started enforcing strict buffer rules decades ago after rapid development hurt species like sea turtles and salmon, and rental owners who adapted early avoided massive fines later. The smart move is contacting your local conservation office before you even list the property. They can tell you exactly what setbacks, lighting rules, or vegetation guidelines apply, which saves you from accidentally building yourself into a lawsuit. At the end of the day, protecting wildlife and running a successful rental are not enemies. They can absolutely work together if you plan ahead. Guests actually love staying somewhere that feels untouched and wild, so following these rules can boost your bookings instead of limiting them. If you want help figuring out the exact permits or rules for your specific location, do you want to learn more about our company? Check out our links in the description.